So first of all, in animal kingdom, these are the properties which we have already studied. Nama. So animals, basically they are multicellular. Okay, ma? Multicellular. What is meant by multicellular? They are made up of many cells. Clear, no? Heterotrophic also we have studied. No? What is meant by heterotrophic? Ma? They cannot synthesize their food material. So food material cannot be prepared by themselves. Clear, no? And holozoic. What is meant by holozoic? Holozoic type of nutrition means so they take food completely through mouth, okay, ma? And digestion is done internally. Digestion is done internally. So this is the meaning of holozoic type of nutrition. Are you able to understand? So these are the properties of animals. So first of all, they are multicellular. They are heterotrophic. They cannot prepare their own food material, and also they are holozoic animals. Clear? No? Holozoic means they take the food through mouth, and total digestion is done internally inside the organs. Clear? No? So therefore, previously we have already studied that totally how many types of species are there, how many species are there. Ma? So totally we have studied that 1.7 to 1.8 million species are discovered till today. Clear? And out of them, how many species belongs to animals? 1.2 million species they belongs to animals. So they are very diverse in nature. What is meant by diverse in nature? Huge number of species. Clear? No? Then out of 1.7, if you remove 1.2, then it is how much? 0.5. So 0.5 million belongs to what? 0.5 millions of species belongs to plants. So when compared to animals, the number of species of plants are very less. So animals are having huge number of species. Okay. So definitely there is a need for classification because huge number of animals are present. We have to classify them into phylum, divisions, classes, kingdoms like this. Clear? So some of the properties of animal kingdom is that animals does not have a cell wall. Cell wall is not present. Whereas a plant have a cell wall. Animals does not have a cell wall. Clear? No? So therefore, let us try to classify this animal kingdom into basic categories, no, which is not present in our NCERT. So see here, kingdom Animalia is also called as metazoans. What is the another name for kingdom Animalia? Another name for kingdom Animalia is metazoans. Clear? These metazoans, we can divide them into two categories. First one is called as primitive metazoans. Primitive metazoans means these are the metazoans which were assumed to form at the starting of the forming of life. So it is believed that life has started from very basic molecules. No? So from this basic molecules have evolved. Then from single celled structures have evolved. Then multi-celled structures have evolved. Then tissue type of structures have evolved. And finally, the complex structures have evolved. This is what we believe according to biology. Clear, no? So similarly, in the primitive formation of this animalia, very primitive metazoans or primitive animals were formed, which were made up of only single cells. So such type of animals, such type of metazoans, we can call them as primitive metazoans. And the name of this kingdom is called parazoa. What is the name of this primitive type of metazoans? Parazoa. Are you able to understand? So they are made up of only cells. So totally they are made up of only single celled organisms. It means some group of cells they live together and they behave like an organism. Are you able to understand? And what is the example of this primitive metazoans or parazoans? The example is only porifera. Only porifera phylum comes under this primitive metazoans, which is called as parazoa. So previously we studied that in animal kingdom, totally how many phylums are there? Totally 11 phylums. Okay. Out of these 11 phylums, first of them that is porifera that is included under primitive metazoans, which is called as parazoa. Remaining all the classes, all the phylums, they are present under the second type of classification, which is called as eumetazoa. Understand? What is meant by U? U means true. Clear? It means from here only we can consider these them to be true organisms or true animals. Porifera is not considered to be a true organism or true animal because it is just made up of a single cell or a loose aggregates of cells or a combination of cells. Are you able to understand? So therefore, in this eumetazoa, the second sub-kingdom of this animal kingdom, so total how many phylums are present? So second one is Coelenterata. Coelenterata, you can also call it as Cnidaria also. Are you able to understand? Coelenterata, or you can call it as Cnidaria. And the second one is Ctenophora, or you can call it as Stenophora. Platyhelminthes, Ashkehelminthes, or you can call it as Aschelminthes, and Nematoda, it is also called as. So Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata, and Chordata. Are you able to understand? So if you travel from top to bottom, what happens to the complexity of this organism? Complexity of this organism continuously increases. So initial phylums, they are very simple. Porifera, just it is made up of single cells. Clear ma? Cells are aggregated or cells are combined to form tissues. Tissues are aggregated or combined to form organs. Organs are combined to form organ system. Are you able to understand? Ma? Then an organism is formed. So therefore, out of the total 11 classes, so the primitive one is Porifera, and the phylums which are present in eumetazoa, these are the 10 types. Okay. So how to remember them? You can remember them by this mnemonic. You can call it as P, C, C, P, A, A, M, H, E, M, C. Are you able to understand? So, or you can change this order a bit. So you can write M, E, H, C. Like this you can remember. Clear? P means what? Porifera. Clear? C means what? Coelenterata. This you have to by heart. This is also called as Cnidaria. Another C is called Ctenophora or Stenophora. Clear? P is called as Platyhelminthes. Clear? A is called as Ashkehelminthes. Clear? This is also called as Nematoda. Clear? Another A is called as 3 A's are Annelida. Clear? And this is called as Arthropoda. M is called as Mollusca. E is called as Echinodermata. Clear? H is called as Hemichordata. Are you able to understand? And C is called as Chordata. Okay. So by this mnemonic, you can easily remember totally how many types of classes, phylums are present in the kingdom of animals. Are you able to understand? So what is the first one? First one, this is called as Parazoa, or which we can call it as primitive metazoa. Are you able to understand? So remaining the 10 of them, they belong to eumetazoa, which is called as true metazoa. Are you able to understand? So this is the basic classification of the animal kingdom. Okay. So next we enter into our basic concept. So what is an animal? Already we have studied them. They are multicellular. They are heterotrophic organisms. They doesn't have a cell wall, and chlorophyll is also not present. Clear? So what is the advantage of chlorophyll? It is used for manufacturing food, preparation of food materials. Because already we have studied that they are uh, heterotrophic organisms. Clear? So these are the 11 kingdoms which we have. Okay, ma. So based on the classification of these animals can be classified based on how many characteristics. So in NCRT we have only 6 characteristics, ma. But the questions were asked on another characteristic also, which is called as body plan. Clear? So these 6 characteristics already we have studied previously. What are the 6 characteristics? Levels of organization. It means whether they are made up of single cell, tissue, or organs. This is called as the level of organization. And body symmetry, whether they are having bilateral symmetry or a circular symmetry. Based on that also we can classify the organisms. And germinal layers. How many germinal layers are there? Whether there are two germinal layers or three germinal layers, whether they are diploblastic or triploblastic. Based on that also we classify the animals. Clear, ma? And the next one is coelom. What is meant by coelom? The body cavity, the empty space which is present inside the body, that is called as a coelom. Are you able to understand? And the fifth one is called as metamerism or segmentation. So segmentation, whether they are present internal segmentation or segmentation is present on outside also. Clear, ma? So then we study about presence of notochord, whether a supporting structure is present or not. And the last one is also called as body plan. Are you able to understand, ma? So based on these categories, we try to divide these animals into different phyla. Are you able to understand? So therefore, levels of organization. So totally how many levels of organization are present, ma? First one is called cellular level of organization, tissue level of organization, organ level of organization, and finally organ system level of organization. Are you able to understand? Okay, ma? So here there is a small clarification which is already given. So let us see here. So cellular type of organization is present in which phylum? It is present in Porifera. Are you able to understand, ma? So it is just a loose aggregate of cells. What is meant by loose aggregate of cells, ma? So just a group of cells, they will be present one on the another, and they will be behaving like an organism. So Porifera behaves like this. Next, tissue level of organization. What is meant by tissue level of organization? So a group of cells, they are combined together and they are performing some particular activity. Then that is called as a tissue. Okay. So tissue level of organization is presented Coelenterata and Ctenophora, or you can call it as Ctenophora. Clear, man? And organ grade, that is a group of tissues, they will combine and organs are created. So organ system of organization we can find in, organ grade of organization you can find in Platyhelminthes. Clear, no? And organ system is presented Ashkehelminthes to Chordata. So in between Ashkehelminthes to Chordata, there are some phylum number. In all those phyla, you can see organ system of organization. Are you able to understand? So these particular bits, you are supposed to study them very carefully. You are supposed to buy heart. But you got it on the point, very avakasam. Clear, nama? That's it. So therefore, next, so these examples are also given here. Clear, ma? So cellular level of organization, you can see in the case of Porifera, clear, no? Tissue level of organization, you can see in cnidarians or coelenterids and stenophores, clear, no? And organ level of organization, you can see in Platyhelminthes to chordates, okay? And organ system level of organization, you can see on the higher end, clear? That's it. Okay. So then we study about the type of digestive system which we have. Clear? Digestive system we can basically divide it into how many types? Digestive system you can divide it into two types. What are they? What's called a complete type of digestive system, and the second is called as incomplete type of digestive system. So what is meant by complete digestive system? Complete digestive system means what? Both anus is also present, mouth is also present. That is called as complete type of digestion. Incomplete type of digestion, only mouth is only one opening is present, which acts as mouth also. It acts as anus. So that is called as complete type of digestive system. Clear, number? And simply, circulatory system is also of two types. So, what type of circulatory system and closed type of circulatory system? Are you able to understand? So, therefore, and based on symmetry. Symmetry again is of how many types? Symmetry is of two types. Clear? So if there is a symmetry is of two types. What are the types of symmetry we have? We have bilateral symmetry also, we have radial symmetry also. What is meant by bilateral symmetry? Bilateral symmetry means if a symmetry is present only across one plane or one line, then that kind of symmetry you can call it as bilateral symmetry. Bi means two. It means across one plane. There is only symmetry along only one plane only or one line only. That is called as bilateral symmetry. And circular symmetry means or radial symmetry means you can divide the organism into two equal halves across any plane. across any line. That is called as circular symmetry. Able to understand? So there are some organisms in which absolute you don't find any symmetry. There are some organisms you don't find any symmetry at all. What is the example of such organisms? Such examples are porifera. Are you able to understand? Ma? So in most of the poriferans, you don't see any type of symmetry. So here the term most is given. What is meant by most here? Most means what? Ma? In only some of the poriferans you find symmetry, and most of them you don't find any symmetry. Are you able to understand? So here we write down. Okay, ma? In most of the poriferans, they are asymmetrical. What is meant by asymmetrical? You don't find any symmetry. But in some poriferans, you see what kind of symmetry? You see circular or radial symmetry. Come on. So that is the meaning of most here. Are you able to understand? So mostly asymmetrical means mostly they are symmetrical, and some have which type of symmetry? Radial symmetry. So that is one point which you should remember. And symmetry you can divide into two types. So radial symmetry as well as bilateral symmetry. So radial symmetry means what? You can divide the organism into two equal halves around any plane. So this is one plane, this is another plane, this is another plane, and this is another plane. Across any plane, you can divide this organism into two equal halves. So that type of symmetry you can call it as radial symmetry. And what are the examples in which radial symmetry is present? Radial symmetry you can find in poriferans, some poriferans, cnidarians, ctenophores, and echinoderms. Are you able to understand now? So in these organisms you can find radial symmetry. And where you can find bilateral symmetry you can find from platyhelminthes to cortex. Okay. See, these poriferans, cnidarians, ctenophores, and echinoderms, they are the basic organisms. They are the organisms which are present in the initial stages. And from platyhelminthes up to cortex, you can find what? You can find bilateral symmetry. So in human beings also you can find a bilateral symmetry only. Are able to understand now? So human beings also you can divide exactly into two equal halves if an axis is drawn from top to bottom. Clear? So therefore radial symmetry is present from where to where? They are present from poriferans to echinodermites. And bilateral symmetry you can find from platyhelminthes to cortex. Clear? That's it. Okay, ma? So see here how he has divided this organism here. See, in this condition, you can divide this organism into two equal halves around any plane. If you divide like this also, or like this also, you can find the symmetry. Clear? But in the case of this crab, you can see symmetry is present only along only one axis. So therefore, this comes under what type of symmetry? Radial symmetry. Clear? And this one comes under bilateral symmetry. Clear now? That's it. Then, so what is the naming of the body organism? That also he is mentioning here. So body of bilaterally symmetrical animal has these sides. So dorsal side is present, ventral side is present, anterior side is present, and a posterior side is also present. Okay, ma? Now what is meant by dorsal side? Upper side. Upper side is called as dorsal side. So that is mana venaka bhagam untundi kada. This side we can call it as the dorsal side, the back side for human beings. And what is meant by ventral side? So for us human beings, the stomach region is present. That region you can call it as the ventral side. Okay. But if you see in the case of this lizard, so this part, this topmost part, this you can call it as the dorsal side. And which is the part which is present on the lower side, that is on the stomach side, that one you can call it as the ventral side. Okay. And this stomachard and notochord, where they are present? They are present on the dorsal side, or they are present on the ventral side? They are present on the dorsal side. Stomachord or notochord, they are the supporting structures. So in human beings also we have a notochord. What is the notochord called as? Spinal cord. You able to understand? That is present on the dorsal side. And what is meant by anterior side? The front side. The front side or head part, you can call it as the anterior side of this animal. Clear, Nama? And which is called as the posterior side, the tail part. That is for us, which is the posterior side? Legs. Mana kaallu unnai kada, that becomes our posterior side. Are you able to understand?